Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever, but I feel like it's the perfect time. So I feel like I had moments of clarity this today, and when you have here, it's a really good way to say this. So let's say you had a moment where you could see clearly and you want to show someone who, and you want to tell someone who's blind what you can see. Well, obviously, the person who's blind will never be able to see what you see, but you can kind of describe to them. The person knowing only the colors of black will never be able to understand when you use colors. But they know, because of the way that you describe it, that there's obviously something more. So now we wonder, what else is there? There's a space that you can enter into, and you'll notice it by profound moments of peace. And in these moments, what happens is that, like, if you can lock onto it and you hold this feeling, what happens is that this feeling becomes your whole reality, and it starts to shift. And only things that are exactly like what you experience will be continually experienced. So let's say I'm using a marker and I'm using the color blue. If I keep on drawing with blue, I'm gonna use blue because that's the color I'm drawing with until I consciously cap it and decide to pick up another color. So certain ways that you're living life will, for example, you using different colors. You can either use purple or dark blue or light blue. And let's say you're very, if someone is very angry, they use a certain color, versus someone who tends to be very happy, they use a different color. You see what I mean? Like, it's because who they are as a person, they tend to create their reality a certain way. If you expect things to be beautiful, they will unfold in a beautiful way. Or only beautiful things will be seen because you tend to see it. Versus if you tend to only view the negative, that's what your reality will be. It's clear as day. So the more that you're able to hold a positive version of reality, what happens is because you're focused on it, it starts to expand, or your life starts to unfold. So imagine you're sitting in a movie theater. The movie hasn't started playing yet. But if you're just kind of sitting back, watching, being patient, it'll pop up. And then it will play itself in front of you. You're not in a rush, you just watch it. And if you're in a rush, you're like, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? But if you just sit back and relax, you kind of notice a huge shift start to occur. The more that you become impatient, it feels like you need to know what's going to happen next. But if you just relax, sit back and enjoy the experience, the movie's just gonna play out. it's gonna unfold in front of your eyes. So just like your life, when you're present in this space of peace, if you can hold it, it will unfold in front of you. And it's gonna be so subtle, but it's gonna be so worth the wait. And it's something that you have to be patient with because you're not used to it. Hold on. And there's some times where your body, let's see, how can I describe this? So let's say there's a sword, right? It's a super fine line, right? And let's say that's where your focus has to be. If you're not focused on the sword or of the supreme clarity that's there, like the highest point, the highest pinnacle that you could put your focused attention on, if you move away from that, you're gonna create catastrophe or some sort of chaos in your body. You start to notice your body twitch, you feel aches and pains because you're not focused in this moment of clarity. It's like, imagine you're riding a bike, right? And you have to look forward on the road. You can't be distracted on what's happening on the other side of the road, or else potentially you could fall, right? It's so thin. It's such a precise place to be, but the more that you focus on it, it's gonna give you such a clear view of your reality as like that precision. Because it's so precise, it has to naturally expand, and then you start to shift your entire reality because it's in a different space. Because if I keep on focusing somewhere outside of me and I feel like bodily disruptions, I'm not helping myself and I'm not helping people around me because I'm not grounded in this moment. I need to be focused on the road, on the bike, on the people in front of me. And if my attention is lost, even for a moment, it could be potentially catastrophic to the people around me because my energy isn't in line. So let's say there's this grid around you. Everything has to be working in a perfect order so that everything else works perfectly. And if you, or if us, in a sword, like it has to be perfectly in line. If it's not perfectly in line, the whole system will shift. It has to be perfect. Because if one thing goes this way, everything else is going to start to go this way. But the more straight it is, the more perfect what you're watching is going to be. And if you move, it starts to create chaos, right? But the more precise that you are in, this mental clarity, you will be able to shift everyone around you so that they are like this with you. They're not going to be like this anymore because you were able to be more present and aware. So the more that you focus like in this space, one quick, easy way that I've been noticing is beneficial for me is to pray. Whenever I felt the need to pray, it didn't matter to what, because my relationship with God changed throughout the years. As long as I would focus on what I thought God was versus what I know God is now, it shifts. Because like no matter what or when I prayed, I always felt safe. Does that make sense? Because I knew that there was something protecting me, but that was just how I grew up. And we can always change our relationship with God because we're always changing with ourselves, So what I did to help me fully transition, and this is gonna help every person, when I stopped focusing on God outside of me, as in like a thought outside of me, like God is up in the heavens somewhere far away from me, there was that space between us. Like that caused a separation between me and the thing, which would make me feel a separation in myself. But as soon as I brought it kind of back in here, I was able to realize that instead of God being far off up in space, what if God was everything in my immediate reality? That like completely annihilates like the space between you and it, because you are a part of it. So like instead of there being a space, you're like this. And obviously you're more closer to something because it's like this rather than it being apart, right? Because what has more, like, it's like there's two halves, but two halves make a whole. And you have to become a whole within yourself in order to experience the whole real version of reality. You can only experience true love if you are whole. And the more that you are whole, you can experience everyone else like this as well. And because you're completely in tune with this presence, with this divine presence. And it just starts to expand. And things will start to happen. Like you'll start to notice like tremendous clarity because you're able to see more clearly, because this is your main focus now. And because your focus is absolute, then anything else that's not like it will have to immediately go away. But what will happen is that you will be given things to deter or to like let's say there's a pretty lady on the side of the road. It's gonna make you want to look. It's gonna make you be distracted, right? So there's things that I do. There's things in my surroundings that will try to deter me from the present moment, but only so that I can come back, right? It's like a magnet. This magnet is always like pulling at you. It's like it's always trying to keep you in its grasp, right? It's always trying to keep you in line. Even if you start to go away, pull away a little bit, the magnet is so strong, it'll automatically pull you back. Because the positive energy of this magnetic force is so strong that it will always keep you coming back, because that's just how the attraction works, right? In a magnetic field. So let's say God is one part of the magnet and I'm on the other side. But when we come together, we complete each other, right? Because we just come into one another because we're both like magnetically aligned. That's why the more that you focus on this space, it'll always be here. I heard something today and it really made me want to it really stuck in my mind, but it makes perfect sense. So let's imagine water, okay? Let's say this water, which could be, the magnetic field or God, it's always flowing everywhere in every single direction. It will eventually soften everything out so that the water can run smoothly through it. So let's say there's mud in the middle, right? Or let's say there's a stone. Because of so many years of the water just flowing, the stone is going to kind of open up so that more water can flow through. And that's all of us, right? It's always flowing in every single direction. Even if it doesn't hit you consciously, it's gonna go somewhere else. So let's say someone who's really negative is kind of like a really built up stone, right? No matter what, they're gonna end up going with the flow of the water, because that's just the way that everything works. Because there's so much energy flowing in every direction, it has to dissolve anything that's not like it. That's just how water and the pressure of this energy goes. It's always gonna flow, and anything that's not like it will have to be dissolved. just so that this energy can flow. So what'll happen, it's like, let's say there's a tunnel, or let's say there's energy going this way, right? Or, so I'm gonna have this on a horizontal plane. So if the energy is going this way, this is gonna go no matter what. So like what'll happen is that it'll kind of go past it and over and around it, because no matter what, this is gonna keep on flowing. You can like put it up again, but it's just gonna go over it. You can put it up again, but it's just gonna go over it. You can put this up again, but this energy, this current of energy is going to always find a way to go over it. And that's where like you have moments of like profound clarity where things are happening really well. It's because this energy was able to it got you in a positive way. It's like, hey, like you weren't so in a rush. I have you now. Just enjoy what's happening right now. And that's what this energy does. Like this energy is always flowing everywhere in every direction. But if we just become receptive, just for a moment, like let's say you're just watching the sunset. Just in that moment of pure clarity, this energy that is always showering you actually like goes through. And you're like, whoa, like this is beautiful, right? Because that moment, that presence, that energy was finally able to connect with you. Or you finally were able to connect with it. The magnet, like it went like this because you were just here. And you weren't in so much chaos, you weren't in turbulence, you just went with it. Because you were just in tune with the natural harmony of things. So what I do, and this is what helps all the time, is just for me to pray. It doesn't matter what or who you believe in, as long as you focus on this energy that's higher than you and you bring it in home, it's going to be a part of your reality because it's what you experience and it's just a part of you. And now because you experience like this clarity, right, because of what you're focusing on, everything around you in your reality will start to unfold perfectly in front of your eyes, naturally. And now you will know what to do when the time is right. Because you have such tremendous clarity and there's no like obstruction, that's where really good ideas will start to come to you. You'll realize, you know what, I can accomplish everything and anything that I desire because there's nothing between me and what I really already desire. And the only thing that I desire is wholeness. It's being complete within myself and with my environment and me working harmoniously with my whole reality. So let's say this is the highest part. Now like I'm in line with it. I'm synchronizing with the most beautiful sounds. Like let's say this is a perfectly tuned string. Let's say this isn't perfectly strung. What's going to happen is because I'm adjusting, I'm going to be able to play very good music, right? If it's all over the place, it's going to be like, right? But when you come back, it's playing something beautiful. And people will understand this differently because not everyone is like this, right? They don't have mental clarity. Some people do and others don't. But everyone eventually will because that's what they're focusing on. And you're going to start to like slowly adjust. Like, let's say your life was like this. What'll happen is it'll start to be more like this. Like super chaotic, not as chaotic, and like perfectly in line. And now like what'll happen eventually, is there will only be little moments where the energy like it goes all over the place. But because it's like this, it has more strength and it solidifies in your experience, and you know when to easily tap into this experience, into this feeling, into this presence. You'll only have like little moments of pain and anger, and then you'll be able to come back. Little moments, and you'll come back. Before it was like this, all hectic, chaotic. Now it's like this. It changes because you're changing. So the more that you're like this, you can start thinking bigger, because everything will work out to what you want, because you have such pure energy. And the more pure your energy, the more energy that you have, because you're accessing the highest form of energy. And now you can live longer, prolong your health. You will be able to stop disease because you have more energy that's working in harmony. And you'll be able to create bigger things that will be beneficial for other people, because you're working in harmony with this energy. And this energy, this water, this positive energy, this energy of love, whatever you call it, this magnetic energy, it's always trying to attract. So it's always going to be brought with things that are exactly in harmony with it. So things that are in closer proximity to this energy are naturally going to be like it, because it's a part of it, right? It's similar in frequency. So obviously there's nothing obstructing it. Now it can come home, right? Like two magnets, they just come home. So that's a little thing I learned. Pretty simple. This takes tremendous amount of patience. It is something that I'm still working through, because I am, right? And it's something that I'm still focusing on, right? Yeah, there will be little snags here and there where like I go like this, but I know where home is, right? It's something inside of me. It's not outside of me. It's something I feel inside. But the more that I feel it inside, I can always recall it, because it's like I snap back, I snap back, I snap back. It's like a rubber band. You go really far, like it's bending, and then it snaps back, right? Like it goes really far and then it has to snap back. Just like you, right? So everyone's gonna understand differently, right? Like I might have been talking about something and you might not understand it. That's okay, right? You just have to keep on going with your life, learning more, acquiring more wisdom. Wisdom is different than knowledge, because wisdom is based off of your experience. Keep on gaining more experience, and the more experience you have, and you really start to figure out things in a quicker rate, where you're starting to be like, you know what, I know that there's something more in life, because there is. You know it, everyone knows it. They keep on striving, doing what they think is best. Now, like, what will happen is that you're actually going straight, instead of like kind of going like this, you're like this. It's more perfect. That's what everyone's doing in their own way. So I'm gonna get back into the habit of making videos, because I know that this information will be I know this information is extremely valuable for everyone in all different levels of their playing fields, right? They might understand it at a very intellectual space or a very spiritual space. And it's just simple. It's simple techniques that will help you harness more of this positive energy that is always washing over us. We just have to be part of the whole entire ocean. Instead of being like a little river, a little off stream, you're the whole of the ocean. There's a huge difference, right? Because there's one little itty bit, or there's one huge thing, right? You're a part of a whole, and that's what we are all a part of. A whole. See, so even when like I have that little moment, those little moments, that's me going like this, right? Because part of my energy wasn't completely focused. but I know exactly how to come back to this moment. It's like a superpower. Like you come back, you're focused. And people who have more energy, they move with more intent because they move slower. You know, people that are very impatient, that have to get things done right away, those people don't have a lot of energy because they're always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? But people who are more balanced in their energy, it's like this. It's harder to push over because that their energy it's wider, it's greater, it's more powerful, right? Like not in an egotistical way, but in like a real way. Like they have more energy, so they can't be knocked over very easily. And if they do, they're always just gonna be like, always gonna come back up, right? Because the weight of their energy is so intense, it's always gonna stay up, right? So I could push it over a little bit, right? Sometimes like it falls all the way. And in that sense, whenever this happens, this is where the paramedics come in, and like something higher has to really lift you up out of the gutter to lift you back up again. But when you're up, you kind of just stay up. You can never really fall back down again, right? Like let's say there was a spot in your life where you were at your lowest lows. You were like this. There was something bigger. You were right here like suffering, and you're like, man, I really need to get up. And when you made this conscious decision, something lifted you up, right? It was working with you to lift you up, right? It had to pick you up. It was hard. But as soon as it picked you up, you were up and you were strong. And you are strong now. And it's easier for you to stay like this. It's easier to knock over something like this because it's lighter. It's like, oh, it's more flimsy. Whereas this, like there's more, like it's hard to push over, right? Just like our energy. The more energy you have, it's harder to knock you over because you have so much energy and strength that you can't really knock it over anymore. Because it's so strong, it's always going to be upright. But if someone who is already mentally and emotionally weak and doesn't understand their own feelings, they're always going to be tipped over because there's always going to be things and outside circumstances that could potentially threaten them, which will make their emotions become array. Will make their emotions go all over the place. And if their emotions are all over the place, their energy is all over the place, right? Someone who is suffering who is really suffering in a panic and anxiety attack, when that happens, their energy is in disarray. It's becoming more fucked up. So like even right now, as I was speaking, I noticed my own energy shift. But just like that, I was able to shift it back to neutrality, to being calm and poised. And that's the goal, is to always come back to this moment. It's something that we have to all work on, but the more that we do it, we will be the best. We will be the greatest versions of ourselves because we are learning how to control all of this energy. We're mentally stable. My phone died, but I'm happy that the recording was able to stay. I'm really happy about that. So I just like to say thank you for watching today's episode. All of these posts that I'm making, they're for when I'm gone. Either 10, 20, 100 years if the internet is still up, and just for all of the people that know that there's more. There's so much more, and wherever you're at is just a very minuscule amount of all the things that you could potentially tap into. Heaven is experienced when you are perfectly aligned. Heaven isn't far away from you. It's a version of reality that we are able to experience because we're in tune with this energy. The most purest energy we have to become in tune with, and our whole reality will shift. So I just want to say thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be more active in just making videos. And honestly, I think they're for me, but they're also just for other people. It's like, it's just this information, right? And we as a society, we know that there's more. And these types of videos are to help you kind of be like, oh, like, maybe there is more, right? Because there obviously is. You can tell when there's someone who has a very pure, beautiful frequency versus someone who doesn't. And the key is to inevitably maintain a positive frequency and just keep on growing, right, in this beautiful place. And your whole reality is going to shift. So once again, thank you so much for listening. Have an amazing rest of your day. And just remember, everything will happen at the right time. Just keep having fun, relaxing, doing what you feel is best, making positive habits and choices that are gonna make you be a better version of yourself. And it's always a good idea to have something that you're pushing for be so great that you have to let go of everything from your past just so that you can keep your focus. And it'll take you, just because your focus is so big, and everything will be able to work out. Everything will be able to work out perfectly because your energy is so strong. It has to work. It will work. Because your energy is so strong, you'll be able to take on everything, every opportunity in life through flying colors, because you will succeed. We will succeed. And life is gonna happen. Life will unfold beautifully. Thank you.